Good evening and very warm welcome to one and all. Lakshya, in its glory, has come to inspire the very essence of leadership. It admires the true meaning of success which lies in the path taken to achieve it. With great zeal and enthusiasm, the National Institute of Industrial Engineering and NITIE Avartan welcomes you all. Respected Shri Ashish Chauhan Sir, MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari Sir, Director NITIE Mumbai, Professor Rauf Iqbal Sir, Dean Students Affairs, NITIE Mumbai, Professor Utpal Chattopadhyay Sir, Associate Dean, NITIE Mumbai, faculty members, industry delegates, media representatives, invitees, officers, staff of NITIE, and proud netizens. Today, NITIE presents Avartan 2022, a corporate crossroad. In its illustrious legacy of over 2 decades, Avartan has witnessed many milestones, and it will mark another one when one of the country's biggest business school fest gets live in offline mode, again after being virtual for the last couple of years. Inspired by Udyog Pragati, National Institute of Industrial Engineering has been a center of excellence and innovation since 1963. Lakshya salutes the vision of our leaders who stood by their dreams and valiantly challenged the adversities during time. Let us now quickly walk through the journey of series of events describing Lakshya and Avartan through a short video. I request student coordinator to please play the video. This was really an engaging walk through the plethora of flagship events under Avartan. Proceeding further, let's get a quick tour of our sponsors and partners for the event. I, on behalf of entire NITIE fraternity, would like to thank ONGC, HPCL, NTPC, SBI, Canara Bank, Turnitin, Grammarly, and elsewhere for their support. I now request all the dignitaries to take their seat on the dais. On behalf of entire NITIE fraternity and Team Lakshya, I, Muskan Sethi, feel privileged to welcome you all to Lakshya PowerTalks, a candid Gyan session. Power Talks is delivered by well-known orators and trendsetters across India who have carved their path of success with pioneering spirit and resilience. I now request Professor Rauf Iqbal Sir, Dean Students Affairs, to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, Honorable Ashish Chauhan sir, MD and CEO, National Stock Exchange, respected Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari sir, Director NITIE, Deans, faculty members, registrar, officers, staff, and my dear students. I welcome you all to this very powerful event of NITIE Avartan 2022 Lux Power Talk. NITIE Avartan, it's an annual fest for NITIE in which it is organized by the students and guided by the faculty members and officers. And this is a week-long program. It starts with the sports event, then cultural event in which students participate wholeheartedly, and tough competition takes place among the students. After that, there are industry event. In the industry event, it starts with the awards, power talks, case study competitions, conclaves, full events, all kinds of competitions are there, also supported by celebrity talk and the music band also. It's a 7 days program. All the students and faculty members, we wait every year. Sir, because of COVID-19, last 2 years, this event was in online mode. But this year, under the guidance of our director, Sir, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, we took a step that we will organize this event in a physical mode. And to a greater extent, we are successful to organize this NITIE Avartan 2022 in physical mode. I will give you some glimpse of this NITIE Avartan 2022. Here, it was power talks and awards. There were 12 conclaves, 21 competitions, and number of colleges, institutes participated, 60 plus institutes participated in this national event. And the name of the institutes are, I am Ahmedabad, I am Bangalore, I am Calcutta, I am Indore, I am Kozhikode, I am Lucknow, XLRI, IIFT, ISB, and many more top big schools in India. And number of participants registered for this NITIE Avartan 2022 for various events, it is 12,000 plus registration we received, and 200 plus were national finalists. And number of panelists, more than 200 industry experts are invited and they joined as number of panelists. Sir, we welcome you to this special event, and we are very eagerly waiting to hear from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I now request Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, sir, Director NITIE, to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker, Shri Ashish Chauhan, sir.
Respected Ashish Chauhan ji, MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange, NSE. Before that, Chauhan ji was the MD and CEO of BSE. We have a long association with Shri Ashish Chauhan ji, and he was one of the key architects who was the chairman of the committee actually to assess the suitability of NITIE as a Indian Institute of Management Act. So with that note, the committee's recommendations were sent. And just to inform you that what are the main credentials and accolades of Mr. Ashish ji is there. So he's a BTech from IIT Bombay, and then he was a IIM Calcutta MBA. And Chauhan ji has been considered as a main pioneering and fulcrum force to initiate all the financial derivatives related work in the different exchanges of India. He is one of the he was the founders of NSE and set up the NSE screen-based trading and also credited with the NIFTY index. Chauhanji was also responsible for bringing the reforms and launched the mobile stock trading and making it the fastest exchange in the world. And he has served on part of several policy committees, he is a part of the many educational institutions like chairman of the Allahabad University, also in the board of governors of several institutions which are run by both Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Education. He has been recognized with several Indian and international awards, including the top 50 CIOs in the world by Information Week, US Digital, Icon of the Year, Asian Banker of the Year, and many more. He is on the board of other institutions like IIMs and Arun Jaitley National Institute of Finance Management, NITs and triple ITs. Shri Ashish ji is also, I say wrongly chairman, in fact, correct word is chancellor of the Allahabad University, one of the oldest university in India, which was earlier called as Oxford of the university. So it's a very big honor for a person to be associated with such an old and glorious university, which was known as earlier the Oxford of the India. And he is also distinguished visiting faculty at Russian University of Toronto, Canada, and honorary professor at Nottingham University and business school in the UK. So with all this note, I can say that the kind of contributions Sri Ashish ji has made, it's unparalleled and very difficult for many ones to achieve. And I'm sure that the talk which he will give you, you will like most. And perhaps he may seek your opinion also that what to speak actually. Thank you very much. And please give a big hand to our speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, sir, Director NITIE, to please welcome Shri Ashish Chauhan, sir, MD and CEO of National Stock Exchange with a bouquet. Thank you, sir. We also welcome, on behalf of Team Lakshya, respected Director, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, sir. I request Professor Rauf Iqbal, sir, to do the honor. Thank you, sir. We also welcome the drive behind this event, Professor Rauf Iqbal, sir, Dean Students Affairs. I request Student Coordinator to do the honor. We also welcome Professor Utpal Chattopadhyay, sir, Associate Dean. I request Student Coordinator to do the honor. Today, we have an eminent personality between us, one who belongs to a very different class of people. They march on new paths rather than traveling the worn paths of accepted success. They have led us with the power of their example, and today they astonish the world with the example of their power. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a real treat today. I now request Sri Ashish Chauhan, sir, to enlighten us with his words.
Professor Tiwari, Professor Iqbal, Professor Chattopadhyay, distinguished faculty, friends, it's an honor to be in front of you. Once again, I think I came a couple of months back and we talked quite a lot. So usually when I go to sleep, or I used to go to sleep when I was your age, when somebody gave a long lecture. So usually I try to ask questions on what is it that you want, or what is it that you want to know, and then anything pretty much on any subject you want to know. And we can start with that. Once you give me a kind of an issue, I have a habit of giving long answers. If you get bored, then you have to ask me another question, right? So that's how we'll take this up. So any startup question, and I will probably go away very far from the question you asked, but at least it gives me a way to start. So anyone wanting to just start the discussion? Yeah, get up. You can ask me on, say, cricket or the next World Cup that is coming, what will happen to the pitch. And so anything you can start with, and then we can take off from there. Yep. Okay, views on cryptocurrencies, which is a good topic to start with. So cryptocurrencies, are they currencies? Right. So basically, sometimes what happens is especially in finance or even in marketing, rather this is done by marketing guys, but finance guys are adept at doing it very smartly. We create perceptions of things which don't exist, or what is not there is what we try to sell you, right? So have you heard of hedge funds? Right. So what do you think hedge funds do? You think hedge funds do hedging, right? But pretty much almost all of them don't do any hedging at all. They do speculation, right? So, but calling it hedge fund, it is so beautiful, right? Suddenly it becomes very acceptable and so on and so forth. And so that's why hedge fund industry or hedge funds have been going on for many years. They've done a lot of investments across the world, and they've also got good results for their investors. But effectively, similarly, why I started with hedge fund on cryptocurrencies, just to give you that sometimes the name doesn't have to be reflecting what is the particular phenomenon, right? So cryptos have two sides to it, okay? One is what we call the technology part of it, and the other part is the digital uniqueness part of it, okay? And so the technology is called blockchain, right? So, and all of you would have heard of blockchain, right? Because today it has become a very important buzzword. Many people are actually putting their hard-earned money into that. And so blockchain, what it does, it basically has certain algorithm by way of which it is able to figure out whenever a transaction happens with that block, it is able to get a vote, pretty much a confirmation from everyone participating. So if you have, say, 200 people here, and I start with something which is called 100 rupees or 100 something, and I give one out of that to you, all the 200 will have, all of you will have to say, okay, this is the transaction that has taken place. And that one, that next person gets, he passes on to somebody else. Let's say out of 1, he passes on 0.01. Then again, all 200 will have to say yes. So imagine how much computing power that goes on, right? But what it does is that it smartly takes away the need for keeping the data centrally. Now every one of you or every one of the node will have the same data, which is also verified by all 200, right? So that's a very interesting way to say that you don't have to centralize anything. Everything can be decentralized, and if anyone is raided, as far as all of us are basically, every data about us is encrypted, nobody will be wiser except person who logs in and then is identifying himself or herself as a at that particular token or something like that. And so that's basically, they call it tokenization and so on and so forth. But in small bits and bytes, managing all the activities through distributed databases, everyone having pretty much similar sort of data, and then getting everyone's confirmation to sort of complete the transaction. And so pretty much everyone, at least large number of people, not 100%, but say 50%, 40%, like that. Imagine there are 1 crore people wanting to do this kind of things. 200, it's easy, right? Imagine 1 crore people and each having 3-4 instruments by which you log in, right? How many times a single transaction has to be approved? It would be humongous, right? And how much time it will take? Imagine instead of 1 crore people, now it's 100 crore people. And the number of sort of to and fro's will be unbelievable, right? And so how many of you have tried to what they call invest in cryptos? You don't have to be sort of hiding it. Because most people have, at least young people have tried, or at least heard of it, right? Have you ever tried to create, basically transfer a Bitcoin in your own account? Try doing that. It takes pretty much weeks and months. So it is a utopia. It is a promise of great technology, which has not even reached what I call maturity. But it is somehow, it became important for people to use it because there are reasons for that. And that's why I'll come to that. But basically, a Bitcoin is a very important sort of asset or instrument or whatever that created this entire industry. And basically, it has a way to mine, right? Something is called mining. It knows that if you use this algorithm, it's like you are aware of sets, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. What is that set? It's basically all odd numbers, right? And then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 is a even number. But there are much more complicated ways to create sort of ciphers or basically cryptic things. And so there is this algorithm which somebody has created, and it has finite number of integers or whatever. Totally it can have so many million of them, right? And then if you run, initially people who ran, they got it early because 2, 4, 6, suppose you say any number divided by 7, initially you will get very, very fast, right? After 300, 500, it becomes difficult to calculate. Similarly, in this algorithm, even computers find it difficult to calculate and arrive at that number. But once you arrive at that number, you claim that and put it on your name saying this number is what I have got. And that is your asset, that is your Bitcoin. After that, somebody says, I want to buy your Bitcoin. And he may pay you $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. Have you ever tried in your childhood those sportsmen's cards? Like cricketers' cards used to come, right? And we used to share amongst ourselves, right? And sometimes rich children would give you even sort of 10 rupees or 20 rupees to have that specific type of card, right? A Kapil Dev card or probably Virat Kohli card in your generation. And so the value of that card of 10 rupees only was in that guy's mind who had a lot of money. Right? And so that's how somebody pays for you. Have you ever played Monopoly at home? Or somebody's house, not your own home. But basically what happens in Monopoly, right? You have this sort of, you have this board on which some sort of things are written, that this is home, this is office, there is some reserve bank, like that, right? And then every one of us get, as players, some money, right? And it's basically monopoly money. We don't think that this money will be useful outside, right? And so we start playing Monopoly. And after, say, half an hour, your next door neighbor also has a Monopoly game going on. And both of you figure that your Monopoly money can be used for buying houses in that Monopoly board. And those people can buy houses in your Monopoly board using their money. So it becomes fungible, their money and your money, right? But does the rest of the world accept it? No. But suppose 100, 200, 1,000 of us in our own Monopoly boards with our own Monopoly money start saying that whatever that money is, we start accepting it. So that Monopoly money becomes basically medium of exchange. That if you want to buy wheat or rice or anything, you can give that Monopoly money, right? And somebody gives you wheat, and that's a very nice thing, right? Similarly, instead of Monopoly money, somebody gives you some portion of that algorithmically identified particular number which you have claimed to be yours, and that becomes, a small portion of that becomes sort of payable for wheat. It becomes so beautiful, right? You have created your own currency. And that's what basically the cryptocurrency is all about. It's a monopoly money, right? And it's not the first time. I mean, every one of us, or at least most of us who are not into celibacy, want to become rich, right? And how do you become rich? We are told that if you work hard, you can become rich. But you can also become rich by manufacturing your own money, right? So if that was true, and if you can manufacture your own money, why would you work hard? And that's why, if some way there was an algorithm to do that, then might as well get that algorithm rather than working as MBA and working for 50 years in your life to get something, right? And that's how this promise is great of creating this currency. This is not the first time in the world this has happened. Around 19th century, middle of 19th century, there used to be a lot of banks in US which used to give promissory notes. Banks giving promissory note to somebody, it used to be bearer. That is, people who take that note can go to any other bank and get gold against that. So that is called promissory note. That I promise to pay 2 tolas of gold to you, and it's my sort of stamp. You can go to anyone. That's how in those days the promissory notes used to circulate. And the bearer of the note will get that 2 tolas sona or whatever. And that's how it started basically circulating. Now, you don't need that 2 tola sona actually. Where will you keep it in your, and it may get lost. Instead, you buy some wheat and you give it to that guy, and then that guy gives it to somebody. And so that note starts circulating. And literally every bank started issuing many more promissory notes than they had gold inside their vaults. And that's how it basically went. And finally, when it was realized that there is not enough gold, there was a run on the banks, and that's how the central banking came. And those days, the new technology was what? Printing on security paper. Right? Today, the new technology is what? Creating something called cryptocurrency. So you can have one series of Bitcoin. On the same algorithm, you can start a new series, having the same random numbers, but not so random because you can derive them out of an algorithm. Using the same algorithm, you can start another series of coin, which can be called, say, Ditcoin. Then next series can be Mitcoin. Of course, you can create one more algorithm which creates its own newer sets of numbers, right? As I told you, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 7, 49, and so on and so forth, right? So basically, you can create many such series. And imagine if that was like monopoly money, it gets accepted. Then you can have doggy coin, you can have cat coin, you can have doggy A coin, doggy B coin. You can also have split in that. Like Bitcoin got split, right? Similarly, Ethereum. And then you can have imagination run wild, which is a good idea. Imagination should run wild. But basically, what is modern currency, right? If you don't understand modern currency or even otherwise general currency, then you will have basically very difficult idea on comparison of what it means, right? So there is a guy called Niall Ferguson. It is at Harvard, I think, and he has written a book on money. Similarly, John Kenneth Galbraith has written a book on money, origins of money and stuff like that. But effectively, the modern money is basically printed by a single party authorized by the government of that country. And that money earlier, till 1972, used to have some gold backing, that if you had printed, say, 1,000 rupees, you had at least gold backing of 500 rupees. So you had gold in the vault. In 1972, first US was the first country to remove that gold backing. So it became basically currency without gold backing. And then all currency started moving. But effectively, it is called fiat currency. That is not the Premier Padmini fiat, but the fiat of the government. That is the power of the government. The diktat of the government is called fiat also. If you search for synonyms on fiat, on thesaurus, you will get that. So this is called fiat money. And fiat money, basically in modern nation states is also a new concept, around 200 years old. Modern nation state, the only party who can use authority, become violent is what? All of us can become violent, but that will be illegal, right? Taking law in your hand. The only person or only entity who can take law in its hand is who? Is the government, right? So government of a country basically authorizes somebody, which is called central bank, to print that money, and that money becomes authorized medium of exchange. So anything you have to buy or sell, you have to use that country's issued currency. So suppose you go to Europe, you have to use euro, you can't be using dollars. If you go to say Nepal, you can use Nepali rupee as well as Indian rupee, both, you know that? Right? Because even Indian rupee is an acceptable medium of exchange as per their law. But very few countries actually allow it. Most countries want only their issued currency, is because otherwise you can print currency and I can print currency and everyone can print currency. Then that currency will have no relevance at all, right? So because of its shortage, it has some value. But it becomes also medium of exchange. It is also the specie, as it is called, in which the government servants get paid. Government also makes it mandatory, and not today, even 1,000 years back, it used to be true, that government also pays, government gets taxes only in that specie. And so on and so forth. So there are many, many legal and other barriers that are created by every government to protect its issuance. And against that, say 1,000 years back, there was no paper currency, right? There used to be gold or silver coins or even copper coins or other coins, bronze coins and all. How did the government get money out of it? They used to get something called coinage. That is, if they make, say, 10,000 coins, they end up, of copper, they end up keeping 5 coins for themselves, and then the rest, 995 worth value becomes 1,000, value of 1,000. So that's why that 5 or 0.05% becomes their sort of coinage or their income. But that, they have issued that, and that is why it starts getting circulated officially. No other currency was allowed. And how did people actually took advantage of that? So each gold coin, if you look at the old gold coins or old silver coins or old copper coins, they end up becoming round, you know. They were not round. But you get it, you cut a little. And slowly, it is called debasing. So the coin, which was this large, slowly after 1,000 years become this large. So from 1 inch, it has become 1 centimeter because everyone cuts a little, right? And that's basically called debasing of the currency. And how does the debasing, in case by chance, by quirk of fate, a crypto sort of serial number becomes a currency of any country? How do you debase? Because there is a finite issuance available. That is one of the promise given. And promise is proven because this algorithm cannot have so many more than so many numbers, right? So it's saying that since it is finite in number, that's why it has a value. There are many things in finite in number, right? But how do you debase it, right? So imagine if somebody is able to hack into that and add more. It has been told that it is not hackable, right? Most of us believe that it is not hackable. But at the same time, we also get news that some exchange got hacked for the Bitcoin, people's Bitcoins ran away. If you are a firm believer, probably you will not want to read those news because many times we get really into those sort of talks in such a way that we become blind to any negative news about person we like, or it is called falling in love, right? Similarly, many young people have, or even old people who have made money out of this by putting $10 now, it has become $20,000, so they got it free from 10 to 20,000. So they've all fallen in love. And anything you say about such things, they reject it mentally. And they actually oppose the person who is saying that. So you will also see a lot of to and fro on Twitter, on Facebook about all this crypto business. But effectively, something has to give you something, right, for you to invest in. So medium of exchange is one part where it is officially not a currency except in one country called El Salvador. Because that was a bankrupt country. They said, okay, once we are bankrupt, might as well take out our clothes also. But that is only few people can do it, right? And so that's where basically very few countries would actually ever make it an official currency for medium of exchange. Then the second role is store of value. Again, store of value, you are saying because there is a shortage, everything else kind of goes up in numbers. That's why this will be shortage. But boss, there are so many numbers, even otherwise, if that number existed even outside of this algorithm, right? A number which comes out of this algorithm actually existed outside the algorithm also. So many numbers, and so all of them are unique, right? So what is the big deal about, and it's a imaginary, it's a mental situation, right? And that's where basically, in a way, the store of value, currently it is in a way holding on for some of them. Many of them have died. Today, literally every day, new people like you and me, many times young students ask me, should I invest in Bitcoin? And I said, boss, if you want to believe in Bitcoin, then believe in yourself first, right? And if you believe in yourself, create your own algorithm and create your own currency. Why should you be believing in other people's currency, right? Print your own. And then you will become a trillionaire. Why billionaire, right? Or gazillionaire. And of course, that will have no value immediately. But this will also have no value at some point, right? The third part, people tell me that it works like stocks. It trades like stocks, right? In stocks also, have you ever tried buying stocks or selling stocks? Right? Stocks is called investing in stocks or debentures or something called, it's called capital market, right? Why capital market? The word capital comes from where? A word called capita. Have you heard of GDP per capita? Right? So capita is head. And in earlier days, a person's wealth used to be how many heads that person had under him or her. How many sons, how many daughters, how many goats, how many cows, how many slaves, and then you make them work, and that they will produce something. And that's why a capital is something which produces something else, right? A cow will produce more milk, some more cows, and some more cows and stuff like that, right? So capital produces something else which is called return, right? In Hindi we call it byaj, right? And so basically that is the way, but when you trade, you buy that asset. And what is a stock, right? It's a representation of partnership into that company, that economic activity. If that makes profits, you will become a partner of that percentage in that company's profits, right? That is broadly the way it works. And so there is a promise that when you become an owner, if that company makes, like Reliance you buy, or ACC you buy, or Tata Steel you buy, if that company makes profit, you will have some portion of that coming to you, right? Proportionate to the number of shares you hold. So, and it will come continually if that company makes continual profit, right? And so that is the return that comes. In crypto, basically, where is the return, right? What you, in here, there is a promise of profit and share of profit in stocks, right? Because in some ways, stocks, when an entrepreneur starts an activity and wants to do an IPO, he or she is actually issuing his own currency, right? Because that becomes, in a way, you are taking the country's currency, and against that you are giving some representation in future profits, which may happen, which may not happen, right? But there is a promise of profit and sharing of that, right? In crypto, there is a promise that you will have to buy the next full. You will have to find the next full which can give you higher price or even lower price, but some price later on. Otherwise, it is a nice little imagination which is sitting somewhere. Similarly, there is one more system of cryptocurrency is a more exchangeable stuff, but there is one more similar thing which is called token something, tokenize something. Say a specific photograph. Pardon? NFT, non-fungible tokens. So the cryptocurrency is a fungible token that I can sort of cut it and give it to you and stuff like that. But non-fungible token is where I can't cut it. I mean, I have to have that full photograph. And it is possible that there are 100 such photographs moving around. But by chance, by quirk of fate, you have a lot of money and you want to, actually, you are that confident to find the next greater fool, because many people are, and they have been successful, right, over last 10 years. And so now you become that confident and you buy NFT. You'll have to again, I mean, it's similar to buying Picasso painting, right? Problem with Picasso is that you and me don't even understand what is there, right? Once I went to see Picasso painting, it was like this big, and it was $150 million, right? And I mean, I couldn't even figure what it is, right? But there are people who store it, and then they have next greater, I won't call it full, but a rich person who can give $250 million and stuff like that, right? And so it's a very hobby kind of a thing, but when it becomes a common thing, then that becomes very difficult for a society to handle. So in 1607, year 1607, the first stock exchange started, okay? In a city of Amsterdam. It was called Amsterdam Stock Exchange. So if you go to Amsterdam ever in your life, try to go to the stock exchange. Today, it has been taken over by New York Stock Exchange Group, but it is an interesting area. But that is not the point. 1620, that is 13 years of, and it started, the entire story of stock markets are very interesting. We have some time, I'll tell you that story of stock markets. But basically, in 1620, somebody said that tulip, you know tulip? I mean, I come from vernacular, right? For me, tulip was a very difficult word. It's not an Indian flower, right? But there is a flower called tulip. Probably now you get also tulip in India. But when I was young, there was no tulip. So I couldn't even fathom, when I read about it, that there was something called tulip mania, okay? So in 1620, it started. It lasted till 1625. Somebody said these tulips are so important for no reason, just for the sake of sheer beauty. And the prices of those tulips, tulip bulb it is called because the flower comes in the shape of a bulb. And tulip bulbs prices started going up. And there were people who could generate that euphoria in Amsterdam. People started selling their houses to buy one tulip bulb. People would come from far off places, filling literally the wagons of wheat and to buy one tulip. And so that was called tulip mania. It was supposed to be the first recorded, human history recorded large mania of this kind of assets. It was the Bitcoin of that time, right? And that is how, if you want to read about the tulip mania, just write tulip mania and you will get many stories, probably Wikipedia pages about it. But that is broadly what cryptocurrencies are all about if you want to invest in that, right? But what is the usage of this cryptocurrency in case there is another use which the theory from Niall Ferguson or John Kenneth Galbraith that doesn't explain to you why people used to use it. Initially, why this became popular is very interesting. That many countries, almost all countries in the world, other than probably few which don't charge you tax, you have to pay tax if you make profits, right? Or if you have income, you need to pay income taxes. Imagine you can figure out a way to take the income not in your currency and nobody knows. Then you don't have to pay tax, right? So if you get 10,000 rupees today in India, broadly when you go out, you will end up paying at least 30% taxes. So out of 10,000 rupees you earn, 3,000 rupees will go to the tax. And that's very hard to sort of justify to yourself, given the fact that all roads are bad and police doesn't come during the scene of crime, only they come later on at some point, right? And so on and so on. So we have expectations. Once we start paying taxes, our expectations increase manifold, right? And everyone, or rather most people, try to save their taxes. So this is basically, have you seen old Hindi movies where the gold smuggler used to cut the rupees 10 note into two parts? One guy will have the half, the other guy will have the other half. And when he comes in the sort of that small little boat bringing gold, and they match, that's how he will hand over the gold to them, right? And so that is basically the way to do hawala transactions, that is transactions which are not accounted for by modern financial accounting system, right? Or modern country systems. And otherwise, hawala is a pretty simple word. It's a way to make entries into each other's books. It's an Arabic name and is going on for 2000 years. It was not illegal then. It has become illegal because the modern nation state wants to tax you. And if you evade taxes, then you are basically a criminal, right, in today's parlance. And that's why most people who want to evade taxes or be under the radar, if they are doing any illegal activities, immoral activities, they don't want their money movement to be captured because the activity happens and nobody knows. But when money moves, sometimes the authorities capture that, right? And then they come and catch that person, and that becomes a proof that why did you give this guy 200 rupees? Because you did this, and the 200 rupees is the proof. Otherwise, there was no contract between the two of you, right? And that's where, basically, this used to be drug dealers' money, and a smuggler's money. That if you want to go from here to America and you want to transfer your assets, does India allow you to transfer all your assets abroad? It maximum allows $250,000 a year under something called Liberalized Remittance Scheme, LRS. These are regulations in India. In other countries, it's not so. But other countries still will charge you tax if you earn income, right? And you want to avoid that. Suppose Kali cartel, have you heard of Kali? The drug dealer cartels, have you heard all those, have you seen those Netflix serials on drug guys? When I sometimes watch and I realize that if that guy wants to send some drugs here, which I keep on reading in newspapers that some envelope has been caught with 30 grams of marijuana and the money was paid through Bitcoin, right? So it is basically a drug dealer's money or a smuggler's money who wants to hide, and that way I can give you that half-cut note from this side, and that side you get it, and that there my friend will give you some gold instead of the money. And that's how this Bitcoin, when you sell here or when you buy here, go to America and sell it there, you will get US dollars without paying for the taxes, going through the capital controls, going through any other things. And that's what basically this business started. And then billionaires wanted to do it. Then if billionaires want to save their taxes, even millionaires want. And then even 10,000 rupees guy wants. And then it came to COVID. In COVID, all basically Western countries thought this is going to be a very short period. And they wanted to, the governments wanted to buy some votes. They already give a lot of benefits, which is called social security to their citizens. But in America, they gave something more, which is basically $1,200 per month to every citizen free of cost. So the government printed the money because anyway it is not having backing, right? So it became their fiat has become another cryptocurrency, backing nothing. But it's still they have to pay salaries and all. So everyone got $1,200 free, right? And they were anyway getting free food coupons and free electricity and everything, especially at the lower strata. And so that $1,200, when a poor person gets it, what does he do? When a poor person gets money, what does he try to do? Right? He buys lottery tickets. He doesn't buy children's food. My brother used to have 7-Eleven store. You know 7-Eleven store? It's a 24/7 store in many countries. He was owning it in America. So sometimes I used to go to America and go and sit at that store. And he used to have a lottery sort of machine. And poor people would come give it to him. Those were food coupons. And then they will not take the food. But once he gets a coupon, he can go to the government and get the money for that food coupon. But he will give them, if that guy wants, he will give them a lottery ticket. So I said, boss, what are these guys buying? He said, no, they are coming with food coupons and they are taking lottery tickets. So all these 1,200 guys, many of them started investing in or started buying this crypto. And that's how prices started moving up, right? So when that free money stopped, so from 60,000, and then it also created a movement, right? When everyone starts buying the same thing, then prices go up. Other people start buying, saying it's going up, it's going up. That's the same thing happened in Tulip Mania in 1620. And it happened in many such things. In Harshad Mehta's time, we used to have, when I used to be very young like you, I was 25. And the prices of shares were going up, and there was this particular stock he fancied about called ACC, Associated Cement Company, right? It still exists, and it was the largest cement company in India. And the prices went up from some 200 rupees or 300 rupees to 10,000 rupees, okay? That on his birthday, it will become 10,000 rupees. This is 1991, not very far, because, I mean, I have actually invested money myself. I have not seen, I have actually lost money. So that's why I'm telling you. And ACC was like his fancied. He had like 10, 15 of them or 20. And people actually sold their secondary school certificates, SSC, to farmers, saying this is ACC share. Right? In that 10,000 rupees. And people bought Xerox copies of SSC certificates because those days, the share certificates used to be there, physical. And you could basically do things. So why I'm telling you all these stories is just to tell you that you have to create your own hypothesis about world which is around you. Check it out continuously and continue to measure it against the reality. Many times the models which we work with, all of us work on models, right? I mean, whether we like it or not, human capabilities are only finite. And everyone works on some assumptions, which is what I call models. And those models, when they start giving you wrong results, because when you do something on that basis, results come wrong, you have to change your model. But usually we think the reality is wrong. My model is correct, right? So basically what I call believing in your own bluff. So don't believe in your own model so much that when reality turns out different, you end up blaming the reality and not the model itself. But probably you will realize this when you become my age. Till the time when I was young, like 5, 6 years old, even 10 years old, my grandmother used to go to listen to those people who do Bhagavad Gita and all, right? And they used to tell stories, they were interesting stories. But after 50 years of listening to those stories, when I remember those stories now, I know the meaning, right? So those days, they were interesting stories with very little meaning. So what I'm telling you, many of this, you may read, you may find this tulip mania interesting, but you will still think that this Bitcoin is different. This Bitcoin is savior of the world. It is liberalizing the world, right? It is libertarian, no governments, and so on and so. It is, in fact, there is a full framework of philosophy behind what I call this anarchic situation, where those people are saying that we don't want governments. We don't want basically be the brick in the wall, Pink Floyd, right? And so on and so forth. So that is where basically this libertarian theory comes up. Just read it, again, read up in Google what it is. Liberalism is fine. Libertarianism is the extremist perspective of the liberal framework. You have heard of woke, but probably not libertarian, but just read through, and it may still not make a meaning to you now. Probably after 30, 40, 50 years, it will end up making meaning. Any other question? We still have 15 minutes. Yep. Yep, yeah. So interesting question. Other than repo rates, what are the ways to control inflation for a central bank? Right? Again, it will come to the central bank part of it, that they issue the currency, right? And they control the issuance of currency. It's not only the central bank issue, even the commercial banks issue the currency in a different way. When they give you loan, they end up creating some money, right? So there is some, what I call narrow money, and then there is a broad money, M1, M2, M3. But broadly, the central banks, which are authorized to be the only player who can basically lend money, borrow money, create money officially, and people under them, that is all commercial banks and others. So they basically are the keepers of money supply. And there is a theory which is broadly correct, is that if you put in too much money, then the prices of goods go up, which is called inflation. And if you take back the money, then prices of goods go down, right? So that's broadly what we call the demand-supply theory of money, right? And in Keynesian theory, there was a economist called John Maynard Keynes. Incidentally, he was also a stock trader, okay? And he also lost a lot of money. But John Maynard Keynes used to be a leading light of UK in his days, which was basically towards World War II. And World War II changed world fundamentally in terms of the powers, in terms of everything. The fight was between European powers, right? Germany and the others. But who won? America won, right? It's like two cats fighting and the monkey got the braid, right? And so America won the World War II. And they were not even players, right? They just created some atom bomb, and they were attacked by in a place called Pearl Harbor, which actually is not a big place, right? By Japanese. And now they had to tell the world that मेरे पास इतना बड़ा bomb है जो, it is like annihilation. There is no such thing world has seen, right? Who started the war? Germany, right? Japan was like a big player coming in through Asia, but they basically attacked very small, little attack on Pearl Harbor, and then they said, okay, these guys are whites and we are whites. Like Ukraine, you might have heard, right? That things happen in Afghanistan, it is fine. But people with white skin and blue eyes, how can you have war with them, right? How can they suffer? So finally, a decision was taken that let's bomb the yellow guys, not the white guys, right? And that's how the yellow guys were bombed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? But effectively, because of that bomb, America came to be known as the guy who can now kill anyone, right? So, the war, it's like two people are fighting with sticks and somebody goes with a gun and kills some third party. Immediately the other two will stop, because now what is the point in having a war, right? Whoever is the friend of the gunman is going to win, right? So that's what finally happened. By killing totally sort of unrelated people, this was done. They were not so unrelated, not so innocent. They were also like very nasty. Japanese were also like really, really nasty. But effectively, that's how the war got done. And then America came to be known as the gunman of the world, right? And the gunman had to create a new financial I'm making this up, you must have figured out, right? Most of my stories are like this. You will not find them anywhere, and nobody will vouch for that. Even tomorrow, if you ask me the same question, I might give you a different answer, right? So don't take it seriously, but use your own mind. Whatever I tell you, basically don't take it so seriously. But so they got all this, they had to create a new financial architecture. Germany was going through tremendous amount of inflation because it had borrowed a lot of money from people like Ukraine is doing. And then they had to repay back, which they couldn't. And so they had printing more money. And to buy a piece of, morning price and evening price used to be sometimes different by 50 times or 100 times, not 50% of the same braid. And people used to go again, sort of bag full of money to buy 2 potatoes in Germany, right? So it's called hyperinflation. But whatever the case, America wanted to create this new And they had to, because they were the now new gunmen, right? Earlier, the gunmen of the world was UK, United Kingdom, and now world was shifting that side. But they had to show that everyone, they're taking along. So they took all the economists, all the important financial controllers of those countries to a place where nobody stayed. It was called Bretton Woods. It is in middle of nowhere. Okay, there is nothing there. They took all these guys, put them on a big table, around the big table, increase the temperature of, increase the cold in that room, reduce the temperature, and close the door, right? Saying, now come to the conclusion. So everyone has to come to conclusion within 1 or 2 hours, because when you don't, you have a problem, biological problem, right? And so, I'm making this up, but effectively, this Bretton Woods system created a framework where World Bank and IMF were created. World Bank would give loans to countries which require loan, and IMF will give additional loans when those countries default, right? Again, if you ask IMF guys, they will start hating me for that. But, and today, World Bank and IMF become too small compared to the world's economy size. But those days, when we were young, they were like masters of the universe. So today, you don't realize that. But those days were like different. And today, if you go to Pakistan, they are still masters of the universe, right? But in India, they don't matter today, because we have come a long, long way for sustaining ourselves. But the chance of making it bad also is pretty high. But having said that, this World Bank and IMF got created. Below them, or kind of supporting them or working together, were central banks of each country, and then commercial banks under that. And that's how the new financial architecture was arrived at. And John Maynard Keynes had a theory that when economic activity goes down, you need to kickstart that. And how do you kickstart that? By pumping more money. If government spends more money on building roads, building anything, then workers will get money, then they will buy toothpaste, toothbrush, so all demands will go up, all economic activity will go up. That's a very naturally understandable theory, and it appeals to everyone. But John Maynard Keynes didn't tell you that when to take back the money, right? And in democracies, because most European countries were democracies, even the newly independent colonies like India were also democracies. And so that's where they have to buy votes, right? They have to, every 5 years, they have to get votes. And whenever economy went down, government will print money. And then when economy goes up, what do you think? Will they take back money? No, because nobody wants party to stop, right? So again, after some time, economy will start going down, then government will print more money, or the central bank will print more money. And that's how it has happened. That's how from 1948 to 1972, some inflation happened, but there was a gold backing, and gold comes very rarely, right? It's a very rare earth metal. And that's why there was a shortage. So they said, remove the gold backing. So now you can print as much as you want. And that's how they started printing more. In 1972, 15th August, Richard Nixon used to be the president of America, and he announced that, okay, we are celebrating also 50th year of gold backing going away for the currencies, and then currency started floating. That's how the floating happened. But countries which issue those new money judiciously had less inflation. The countries which ended up printing more money unnecessarily had higher inflation, because cases after that is Zimbabwe. If you heard of Zimbabwe's runaway inflation, again it was like Germany. And that's where basically the inflation happened. European countries, US, they were what they call developed countries. And that's where basically they were doing it very judiciously. They ended up creating laws saying not more than 2% should be the inflation. And then they will, the central banks will coordinate to ensure that prices don't go up even during shortages. Because if there is a shortage of wheat, then prices will go up. But somehow they managed it quite a lot. Around 2000, 2001, one single incident happened called LTCM, long-term capital management. If you guys want to write down and read about it later on, read about LTCM. And then that time, Greenspan was there as the Fed Reserve Chairman, and he ended up funding the losses and also resolving the problems of LTCM. I won't go into detail because it will be another 1 hour. But basically, that's where the sort of huge amount of money started getting printed without anyone asking questions. And then later on in 2001, there was this World Trade Center bombing. And so the American economy started going down. And again, a lot of money was printed. And that bubble was slowly becoming sort of sagging by 2007-8. And that created a crisis, what is called financial crisis. So some more money had to be printed to come out. And so that lasted till 2020. In the meantime, one more shock came, which was COVID. And so some more money had to be printed, including giving $1,200. And 2007, what was basically broad macro issue, that the people who had borrowed money to buy houses were not funded, but banks were funded. So people said that instead of funding the small guy who is suffering, whose house is going, you are funding the rich, fat bankers who are earning in millions. And now they will earn millions because you give them free money. And that if you have to give a lot of money to banks, you have to give little money to the small guy also. So he doesn't feel bad about it. So they ended up giving this $1,200 in addition to what they were giving earlier. And that's how the inflation started coming out. But in the meantime, the inflation was not going up from 2000 to 2022. In fact, from 1972 to 2022. Because why it didn't go up? Is because productivity was increasing. And so, although more money was chasing goods, provided they were the same quantity of goods. But if quantity of goods was increasing, then it will not be so inflationary, right? So, the money was introduced by, say, 10x, and the prices went up by 5x. So, everyone is happy. And then, this external shock came, called Ukraine war, right? And so, already the stage was prepared, but there was no inflation happening, and a new modern monetary theory came up. If you have heard of modern monetary theory, MMT, again write that down. Beautiful theory, which is also called helicopter money. Okay, so instead of giving a small little social security check, everyone should be given $1 billion. Why give $100, right? And that was basically the framework which many of the economists, including some of the Nobel laureates, suggested. That we need to, we have come out of the inflationary cycle. Next thousands of years, there won't be any inflation. That was the perception behind making such statements. And they started saying that you need to give more and more money. And so, a lot of money is pumped in. Inflation is not going up due to a variety of reasons. And then suddenly, external shock comes, which is the Ukraine, and only the price of oil go up. And then suddenly everything starts going up, wheat price, copper price, and then now you have inflation. And now once you have inflation, with so much money already sort of floating, they start chasing those goods. And that's where now you need to control. And that's why there is an aggression in increasing interest rates. To give you a perspective, last year at this time, if you see 10-year US Treasury bond, it was giving around 0.25% interest income, okay? Today, after 1 year, it is giving around 4%. As of now, I just checked 3.98%. What has happened is, it has gone up 8 times, right? 25 bips to 400 bips. What is interest rate? For me, interest rates will have a lot of people explain to you, but for me, interest rate is rent for money. If you have to borrow money, like you take rent somebody's house and you pay 10,000 rupees per month, imagine you are paying 10,000 rupees per month here to stay. And after 1 year, you are told to pay 4 lakh rupees per month. or 80,000 rupees per month, because 8 times. So 25 bips to 400 bips. So 10,000 to 80,000 rupees. How many of your parents can afford? Right? And that's what basically the current issue is. They are aggressively increasing. Once that happens, there are a lot of other people who have borrowed at 0.25%. In Europe, it was negative interest rates, right? They had borrowed at negative, and now they have to actually give, because if they have borrowed floating, then what was negative has now become positive, and all their calculations go away. And that's where the pension funds, you would have heard last week, UK had a new budget, new Chancellor of Exchequer, new Prime Minister, and they announced their tax cuts, and the UK pound started going down, interest rates started increasing. The first casualties were actually entities which nobody thought would be casualties, which is called pension funds. Because they were actually borrowing from public in a way and telling them that after when you retire, I will pay you so much, so much, so much. But they were not able to get that interest because they were getting only negative interest, right? So they were doing derivatives instruments which will give them a kind of a higher sort of floating against a fixed, or a fixed against a floating, and that started basically going wrong, and they had to get a lot of margin money because when you start going losses, you have to start paying up for that, which is called margin money. In fact, I had a very beautiful cartoon sent to me yesterday. The girlfriend is asking a boyfriend, saying, who is this margin? Why is she calling you so much? Right? And so basically, you start getting margin calls. And that's what happened to the UK pension fund industry, which is like several trillion pounds. And that would also flow into US, because US people also would have contracts with them. So it would what we call dominoes. If one party fails, you will have many more parties failing. And that's why the Bank of England, which was increasing interest rates in tandem with US Fed and all, actually had to go and reduce the interest rate for that day to buy up the bonds and stuff. And that's where basically that day was saved, but they were given 2 weeks to take back. Today was the second week ending. What do you think happened before I started my lecture? All the tax breaks have been taken back, and the new finance minister has been sacked. Okay, so inflation framework or inflation stoppage using the interest rate increase probably will continue, but it may also affect many institutions, many large players, which may be what we call systemic risk. That is, many more players will fail, and that's why there will be very cautious increase going forward. That's what most players feel. America wants to aggressively do it, and many countries in Europe want to aggressively do it, but many institutions might fail. They won't be able to do it that well, and that's why the prices of stocks yesterday in US market went up quite substantially, highest in last 2 years in one day in percentage terms, and so on and so forth. But this concept of inflation is basically will continue to plague you for longish period. When we were young, we lived in a very inflationary times, 1972s and stuff, where inflation was like huge, because the oil prices had suddenly gone up because of, again, printing of bad money and stuff like that. Probably in your sort of early careers, you will see a lot of inflation, which means a lot of interest rates, which you'll have to pay in case you borrow. And so it'll be a new lesson. My generation didn't see large increase in interest rates, but even when you are in the sort of MBA school, within 1 year you have seen 8 times in US, which is like unheard of. The bond valuation in US, the bond wealth destruction that is they're invested in bond, has been the highest in last 100 years as percentage of GDP in last 1 year, right? So no such experiences have been there with the sort of world financial markets. But overall, inflation will continue, because if you stop your increase in inflation rates, then all these higher prices of oil, wheat, rice build up. Then that builds up expectations of people that today if I am having 100, I will require 120 tomorrow to get the same facilities. So you also ask for 120 tomorrow. And so everyone's expectations get built up, and actually inflation in sometimes becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so that's what they don't want. So they'll continue to increase interest rates, but and it's a very blunt instrument. It's not a very sharp instrument that you increase it to so much and it will stop. It's like putting a brake on a very long train. If you put a very fast brake, all the bogies will come on top, right? So you have to do very slow brake, and then when you put a brake, the train will stop after 5-10 kilometers, right? In the meantime, what happens, nobody knows, whether you will accelerate again. But if it stops, then to start will require huge amount of sort of power to start. And so if you come and halt the entire economy, which is what is looking to be the case, then to start will become more of a problem. There are other problems in the world like China's real estate and other stuff. But it's a very interesting time. We can continue to tell you about all this, but the life is going to unfold much faster for you than it did for us. So good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring words. It was an enthralling experience to listen to you, and I'm sure that it has ignited a fire in each one of us and regenerated a spirit which will always inspire us to come out as a winner. I request Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, sir, Director NITIE, to felicitate Shri Ashish Chauhan, sir, with a small token of gratitude. Thank you, sir. For supporting our event, Avartan, the entire Lakshya team would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors and partners, SBI and Canara Bank. I would request Professor Rauf Iqbal, sir, to felicitate Mr. Sanatan Mishra, DGM, BNO, Non-BRP Center, SBI Bank. Now I request Professor Rauf Iqbal, sir, to felicitate Mr. Pradeep Kumar, AGM, Canara Bank. Thank you, sir. May I now request Professor Utpal Chattopadhyay, sir, Associate Dean, to kindly deliver the closing remarks and vote of thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Ashish Kumar Chauhan, sir, our beloved Director, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, Professor Rauf Iqbal, Dean Student Affairs, my faculty colleagues, officers, staff and students of NITIE. Lakshya PowerTalk is one of the prominent events of Avartan. In fact, this is one event where the best of the speakers in this event. And I can say with confidence, and I say the happiness on behalf of the entire NITIE community, that today also, following our rich tradition, we have got one of the best speakers with us in the Power Talk. And you have all realized that. In fact, Ashish Chauhan sir, when he was speaking, I could feel that a person only with his depth of knowledge and breadth of experience can speak to that extent, and with the giving examples from the history and also from the world economies. I think our students will be greatly benefited to have heard him here today. Having said that, I now, and perhaps my colleagues from the economics department, has a big challenge, because Ashish sir has already covered a major part of macroeconomics course, which is now forthcoming. Sir, it was a great experience even for us to know the historical perspective of money and the different functions of money and also cryptocurrency. And I think a person who is having the combination of technology and finance can only speak to this depth. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us this kind of knowledge. When I see Ashish sir, actually one thing comes to my mind, and I'm sure this will be shared by my students present here and the students who are not present here. You know what is that? I think Ashish Chauhan sir symbolizes the success. I think many students of your age or even our age had and still has that dream of having the kind of career IIT, IIM, and then working in the financial sector and big corporations. So, sir, thank you for inspiring and coming here, inspiring our students. I think many of our students will follow your footsteps. And also, I will not leave this opportunity to thank you, Ashish sir, for his special contribution. Our director, sir, has earlier mentioned that, and we all know that sir is heading the committee which actually came here and examined the feasibility of including NITIE under IIM Act, and the committee has already favorably recommended, and with the government and God willing, I think our dream will get fulfilled. And thank you, sir. We are grateful to you for your contribution. Our beloved director, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, he always supports us. He always guides us. He always holds our hand firmly for whatever we do at our institute. And this Avartan 2020 is not an exception. Rather, it is an event where we have got his support, continuous support, all through these events, starting from our preparation days till today. I remember the day when our director, sir, broke the news that Ashish Kumar Chauhan, sir, will be the speaker for the Power Talk. I think I cannot reproduce, or I cannot express it in words, the ecstasy among the students' team, knowing that sir will be coming and delivering the lecture. So, sir, thank you very much for getting Ashish sir here. And of course, thank you, Ashish sir, for coming here. The main man behind this event of Avartan is none other than Professor Rauf Iqbal, Dean Student Affairs. He has been working tirelessly. He has been working since morning to late in the evening and the late night. And all through these days and also months, I can tell, because the preparation for Avartan goes on for months and years, he has been with the students, supporting, giving constant guidance. Thank you, sir, for making this Avartan successful. We acknowledge your contribution and hope to get your support in future as well. Our faculty colleagues, some of them are present here, some of them may not be present here today at this moment, but all of them have wholeheartedly supported wherever we have invited them, wherever actually sought their help and interventions. Thank you very much, my faculty colleagues, for making the Avartan 2022 a successful event. Then our officers, our registrar, Some departments, I must mention their contribution, departments like the Director's Office, the Office of Accounts, our AR Accounts is present here, the Office of Estate Department, Security and Transport, among all departments have come forward and helped us like anything. Otherwise, I think the event would have not been successful to this extent. I must mention the contribution and the support that we have received from our bankers and the sponsorship amount that we have got from them, notably the State Bank of India and the Canara Bank. Thank you, sir. Thank you for supporting us. Hope to get your support, even greater support in the coming days. Last but not the least is my students. They have been working day and night. All the teams, because Avartan is a 7-day event, so many teams working and every team having so many students, volunteers. And this time we found that every event is houseful, every event. Earlier we had seen there may be some events there will be some lack of students or lack of audience, but I am very proud to see your participation and enthusiastic participation in all the events. Thank you, students. Thank you, Team Lakshya. Thank you, the team Avartan, and thank you all. And please forgive me if I have missed anyone's name or any department's name. I think all have made contributions to make this business event called Avartan 2022 a grand success. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request our director, sir, to kindly present our esteemed keynote speaker with a small token of memory as a photograph. With this, we come to an end of this splendid event. Now I request all of you to stand in honor of the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Sir, with your permission, we would like to take a group photo with all the dignitaries and Team Lakshya. The delegates from SBI Bank and Canara Bank, kindly please join us.